Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I? Like justice. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our next song, Joy in the Morning by Adam Parr. We'll find joy in the morning. Joy in the morning. Joy in the morning. In the morning we'll find joy. Open our children. We'll find hope in our children. Hope in our children. Hope in our children. In our children we'll find hope. Strengthen each other. We'll find strength in each other. Strength in each other. Strength in each other. In each other we'll find strength. There is love all around us. Love all around us. Love all around us. All around us there is love. All around us there is love. All around us there is love. Please remain standing. Thank you so much. And join me in the words of our covenant found on our screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its call. Let this be our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another, whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life journey, you are welcome here. Wherever you are, whoever you love, wherever you are on your life journey, you are welcome here. I'm Michael Leuchtenberger, and I get to serve as the settled minister of this caring, curious, and ever-evolving congregation. It is good to be here. Wherever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life journey, you are welcome here. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Please be seated.
Welcome to worship. So good to be with you this morning in person and online. My name is Dory LeCount, and I serve as the Family Engagement Coordinator of this music-loving and children-embracing congregation. We are here to support one another on our own and our shared spiritual journeys, centered in love, compassion, curiosity, courage, and joy. I'm especially happy to welcome first-time and returning visitors. If you are a visitor, we hope you will find us a community eager to welcome you and respectful of the path which has brought you here with us this morning. Anyone wearing a colorful stole is glad to answer any questions you may have. There is written info in the pew folders and at the visitors table for you to take. For our online participants, it would be wonderful if you introduced yourself on the chat so we know you are here with us. Our church buildings are located on traditional homelands of the Pennacook Abenaki people, past and present. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and the people who have stewarded it for generations.
For complete listing of church events and news, check out our weekly e-bulletin or copy of our parish notes, our monthly newsletter. Here are a few highlights. Our offering right after the service include a sermon dialogue with me in the parlor and on Zoom on today's sermon topic, a contemplative practice session, How to Meditate with Judy Abbey in the chapel and on Zoom. And then join Susan Palusny and Sarah Kennison in the Ken Thomas Room as they explore playful ways to cultivate joy and build resiliency muscles through movement, somatic awareness, music, and mindful art activities. If you come to the sermon dialogue, you also will have a chance to put together these whistle kits that we're putting together for our friends up in Maine. This is when ice comes into the neighborhood, we want to be prepared. So if you want to help put those together, please join us in the parlor. Kids ages 5 and up are encouraged to join our Young Explorer program, and younger kids are always welcome to stay in our Rainbow Room nursery. And then at 12:30, all are invited to our free community luncheon in Fellowship Hall, hosted by the Tarani family. Thank you so much, Tarani. During lunch, you will get a chance to assemble those. Oh no, that is no longer the case. All right. And it will also be your last chance to purchase raffle tickets so you can win a dinner for two anywhere in the world, flight and hotel included. The raffle drawing will happen as lunch winds down. I'm very jealous of all of you because as staff I don't get to participate, but best of luck to each and every one of you. Lorraine will be available right after the service so you can buy a few more tickets or a few more dozens of tickets to up your chances. And then tonight at 7 p.m., join me for our community drum circle. Experience the joy of finding communal rhythm and seeing how it shifts as each member of the circle begins to add a new layer of sound. Tuesday, all are welcome to join our weekly welcome table dinner at 6, a free conversation-rich meal of plant-based options, plant-based, low-packaging food with gluten-free options. On Wednesday, the Exploring Membership Group starts at 6 p.m. If this feels like the right moment to learn more about Unitarian Universalism, about how we function as a congregation, including our history, and would like to connect with other relative newcomers as you share your spiritual journeys, come to church on Wednesday at 6 p.m., the first of 4 sessions. We will meet right here in the sanctuary because we will also be hosting families who are experiencing homelessness in the other wing of our building. To register, sign up online or again, contact Lorraine Ellis. There she is, yes. And also on Wednesday is our next session focused on the power of myth. So come to the parlor for that. Finally, our Covenant Group open enrollment deadline is today. So please fill out the Breeze registration form that you can find in the e-bulletin. Breeze is our online database. Each week, we light our chalice to set this time apart and to mark it as sacred. If you're at home and you have a candle or chalice ready, I invite you to light it now as Bella lights our chalice here in the sanctuary. Flame by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, rise up, O flame, show to us beauty, vision, and Wendy Buck, the composer of our introit, writes that it was hard to decide what to put on her signs for the Women's March on Washington. There were so many issues and so much that could be said, so she decided that her issues could be boiled down to basic human rights for everyone. She loves the quote attributed to Martin Luther King Jr. about the arc of the moral universe bending towards justice. So she borrowed from that for her sign. And as she and her friends marched, the words on her sign became a tune in her head, which became the song you are about to hear. Except verses 2 to 6 were created by our very own Brian Kugel for today's service.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Human rights for human beings.
Human rights for human beings.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Human rights for human beings.
Human rights for human beings. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc.
Don't bow down to men with guns.
Don't bow down to men with guns.
The world belongs to the peaceful ones.
The world belongs to the peaceful ones.
Don't bow down to men with guns.
Don't bow down to men with guns.
The world belongs to the peaceful ones.
The world belongs to the peaceful ones. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc.
Reach a hand to help another.
Reach the hand to help another.
He's your sister, she's your brother.
He's your sister, she's your brother.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Bend the arc and break the ceiling.
Human rights for human beings.
Human rights for human beings. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc.
If we claim that we are free,
If we claim that we are free,
we cannot hide from
we
history.
cannot hide from history.
If we claim that we are free,
If we claim that we are free,
we cannot hide from history.
Cannot hide from history. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc.
Keep our leaders from the level.
Keep our leaders from the level.
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Keep our leaders on the level.
Keep our leaders on the level.
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Tell the truth and shame the devil. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc. Bend the arc, bend the arc.
It is a blessing to be. It is a blessing to be here. It is a blessing to be here now. It is a blessing to be here now together.
This weekend, our nation pauses to honor the life and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a prophetic voice who called our society towards justice, towards belonging, a beloved community, and towards the courageous practice of nonviolent love. Yet we do not remember Dr. King only as a hero of the past, but as a moral witness whose work remains unfinished. His dream was never merely personal aspiration, it was a public vision of dignity for every person, of rights made real, of communities transformed by solidarity and by compassion. In his words, we must stand up amidst a system that still oppresses and develop an unassailable and majestic sense of values. What is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. And this is what we must see as we move on. May we be inspired not simply by Dr. King's words, but by his disciplined hope, not simply by his courage, but by his commitment, not simply by his dream, but by the daily work of justice that dream requires. May the life we lead speak for us. May the work we do speak for us. May the songs we sing speak for us. So please rise in body or spirit as we sing May the Life I Lead by Sullivan Puyu Park. Sorry, another song in the call and response tradition. This time I get to do the calling and you all get to respond. Testing. May the life I lead, speak for me. May the life I lead, speak for me. When I come to the end of the road, and I lay down my heavy load, may the life I lead, speak for me. May the love I share, speak for me. May the love I share, speak for me. When I come to the end of the road, and I lay down my heavy load, may the love I share, speak for me. Speak for me. May the work I do, speak for me. Speak for me. May the work I do, speak for me. Speak for me. When I come to the end of the road, and I lay down my heavy load, may the work I do, speak for me. Speak for me. May the friends I keep, speak for me. Speak for me. May the friends I keep, speak for me. Speak for me. When I come to the end of the road, and I lay down my heavy load, may the friends I keep, speak for me. We're skipping one now. May the songs I sing, speak for me. Speak for me. May the songs I sing, speak for me. Speak for me. When I come to the end of the road, and I lay down my heavy load, may the songs I sing, speak for me. Speak for me. May the life I lead, speak for me. Speak for me. May the life I lead, speak for me. Speak for me. When I come to the end of the road, and I lay down my heavy load, may the life I lead, speak for me. Speak for me. When I come to the end of the road, and I lay down my heavy load, all together, may the life I lead speak for me. Please be seated. Unless, of course, you are young in age or young in heart, and then I would like to invite you to come forward for our time for our ages. Pies from Nowhere, how Georgia Gilmore sustained the Montgomery bus boycott. And while the kids are coming down, I'll tell you about a trip that our youth group will be taking right there to Montgomery, Alabama in April 25th to May 2nd. And we get to see some of the civil rights spots that we are talking about today in the service. And we've actually decided, so pay attention for a moment. We've actually decided to invite a few adults to join us. So if you are an adult who would like to go to Alabama, be part of a civil rights tour, and also engage folks who might have a different perspective than your own perspective politically, that is an invitation. However, we have to have deposits from all of you fairly soon, January 29th. Speaking of youth group projects, we have earned our bench for collecting 1,000 pounds of plastic bags and other plastics. Thank you. Thank you, youth group, for getting the project started. And thank you to Beverly Pitlicki, Patty Pinsky, Mary Ober, and Bill Park for taking it over and being willing to continue. So please keep those bags coming and drop them in the bins in the hallway outside the kitchen. Now over to you.
Pies from Nowhere. How Georgia Gilmore Sustained the Montgomery Bus Boycott by D. Romito. When Georgia Gilmore was a young girl, she lived on a farm in Alabama where she fed the pigs and milked the cows. Georgia did her best to listen to what her mother taught her. Think twice before doing anything you might regret, and never hate anyone. Georgia grew up and soon had a family of her own. She did plenty of cooking along the way, and when it was time for something sweet, she knew just what to do. She'd blend butter and sugar in a bowl to get her homemade pound cake started, and then add tea bags to a pot of water for a new batch of sweet tea. This is Georgia. Georgia was a cook at the National Lunch Company in downtown Montgomery, Alabama. Because of segregation laws, the restaurant counter was separated into two sections, one side for white customers, one side for black customers. Georgia knew it was wrong, but that was the way things had always been. On December 1st, 1955, Georgia was working at the restaurant when a news alert came over the radio. A black woman named Rosa Parks had been arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a bus to a white passenger, as the law demanded. Already an activist, Rosa was tired of giving into rules that were unjust, and she was not the only one. The next day, an association of black women distributed a flyer asking people to boycott public transportation on Monday. It said, "Please stay off all buses." Georgia watched as buses drove down the street, one after another. Empty, empty, empty. Because she'd been treated poorly by the white drivers so many times before, Georgia hadn't ridden the buses for over 2 months. Still, she wanted to be a part of the movement she saw was growing. Not long after, she went to Holt Street Baptist Church to hear Reverend Ralph Abernathy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speak. The church was full. The crowd overflowed onto the streets outside. Large speakers had been set up so thousands more could hear. Dr. King spoke about doing good things for one another. He talked about freedom, unity, equality. We are determined here in Montgomery to work and fight until the justice runs down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Those were things Georgia believed in, and she was willing to fight for them. So, Georgia decided to help in the best way she knew how. She worked with a group of women in her community, and together they purchased the supplies they needed: bread, lettuce, and chickens. And then off they went to cook. The women brought food to the meetings that followed at the church, and they sold sandwiches. They sold dinners in their neighborhoods. As the bus boycotters walked and walked, Georgia cooked and cooked, and boy, did the people of Montgomery love her food. Georgia's group donated the profits of their sales to Montgomery Improvement Association, which helped fund the boycott. But if anyone found out these women were involved, they could have lost their jobs. So, Georgia ran the operation, and the other women acted as secret helpers. See, the way I figured it, people always had to eat. So I made the pies, said Georgia. The women sold baked goods to stores, groceries, laundromats, and beauty shops in their neighborhoods, and people paid in cash so they wouldn't be connected to aiding the boycott. Sweet potato pie, peach pie, red velvet cake, 7-Up cake. Only Georgia knew who baked them, and only Georgia knew who bought them. Every Monday and Thursday, Georgia would go early to the boycott strategy meetings at the church. She'd walk up to the collection plate and announce how much her group was contributing. There was cheering, clapping, foot stomping. But whenever people asked where the money came from, she remembered her promise to keep it a secret. It came from nowhere, she'd say. Because of this, her brave group of women bakers became known as the Club from Nowhere. The club not only raised enough to purchase gas for the carpool system that had been set up for the boycott, but they were also able to buy station wagons to aid the effort and help get people where they needed to go. But Montgomery didn't want their buses continuing to lose money, so the city did what it could to stop the protesters and their efforts. Dr. King and 89 others were arrested for their roles in the boycott, and Georgia was called to speak in court about the instances when a bus driver had mistreated her. After she had already paid, the driver demanded she get off and enter through the back of the bus, as black riders were forced to do at the time. When I reached the back door and was about to get on, he shut the back door and pulled off, and I didn't even ride the bus after paying for my fare. So I decided right then and there I wasn't going to ride the bus anymore, Georgia testified. Georgia knew she was doing the right thing by standing up for her fellow protesters, but news of the trial spread across the country like wildfire. When the National Lunch Company found out she was part of the boycott, she was fired from her job. Georgia was unemployed and raising 6 children on her own. She needed to find a new way to support her family. Dr. King encouraged her to start her own business. All these years you've worked for somebody else. Now it's time you worked for yourself, he said. He helped her improve the kitchen in her home, and Georgia got new pots and pans and cooking supplies. Word got around and people came to eat at Georgia's. When they came to her house for a meal, they would eat whatever they could where they could find a seat, and if they couldn't find a seat, they'd eat standing up. Georgia loved to talk and joke with her customers and friends. Soon enough, there were long lines to get a meal cooked by her. People ordered meals for delivery, too. Georgia was making hundreds of lunches each day. She packed up fried chicken, black-eyed peas with okra, fresh corn muffins, and apple pie, and sent her kids out to deliver them. If you were lucky, you might even get her homemade macaroni and cheese. She was providing food for her community, but she was also bringing the people of Montgomery together, black and white. Dr. King frequently had meals at Georgia's house because she was a big woman with a big personality. He lovingly called her Tiny. And because civil rights leaders knew they could trust Georgia, her home became a place for important and often secret meetings. I just serve them and let them talk, she'd say. On November 13th, 1956, Georgia was cooking in her kitchen, listening to music on the radio, when the station interrupted the song to deliver the news. The Supreme Court had declared that segregation on buses was illegal. The boycotters had won. Georgia was thrilled. People could ride the bus and sit anywhere they desired. At the next church meeting, Georgia sat in her seat and listened as Dr. King announced that the Montgomery bus boycott was a success. "We didn't have to walk no more," said Georgia. "Even before Martin Luther King Jr. got up there and told us it was over, we knew it was over, and we knew we had won. Still, there would be more battles to fight, so Georgia Gilmore kept right on cooking." This is a reminder to us all that we all have a special gift, and we all have a special way that we can contribute in times of resistance.
Thank you so much, Dory, for that story. If you're up front here, please rise in body or spirit, and let's sing our children's blessing along with the movements that embody its message. May our minds be open to new learning. May our lips bring truth into the world. May our hearts know love and our hands do the work of justice as we go our way in peace. As we go our way in peace. May our minds be open to new learning. May our lips bring truth into the world. May our hearts know love and our hands do the work of justice as we go our way in peace, as we go our way in peace. I just want to acknowledge how marvelously lucky we are to have such wonderful musicians here in the house. Chris Gantner and his wife, Aubrey Dion. Thank you so much for joining us. Heather's out today on vacation. Don't know where she is today. Charleston, is that right? Okay, good for her. We now turn to the joys and the sorrows we carry individually and as a community. Will you take a breath with me? As we surrender to this moment, let us notice our body resting, grounded, supported by the earth. And as the piano begins to play, you're invited to come forward, light a candle or place a stone at the table to your right, or add a note to the Holding Our Grief wheel. Today's joys and sorrows we will hold in silence with no public sharing at the microphone. And I invite Anne to light one more candle on behalf of those who are not here with us today or who chose to remain seated. Whether your joys or sorrows have been named or remain in the silence of your heart, know that you are not alone. May we hold our earth in our hearts with joy in her nature, in awe of her majesty, power, and resilience, taking responsibility for the hurts that we have caused her. Will you take another breath with me? Please join me now in our musical meditation. Open our hearts. Open our hearts, open them wide. Love and compassion be our guide. Love and compassion be our guide. Open our hearts, open them wide. Love and compassion be May that be so. Amen. For reading, we turn to one of the most influential moral and theological writings of the American Civil Rights Movement, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. Dr. King wrote this letter in April of 1963 while imprisoned in Birmingham, Alabama, jailed for participating in nonviolent direct action against segregation. In the letter, he responds to a group of white religious leaders who urged him to slow down, to be patient, to pursue change only through the courts and proper channels. Instead, Dr. King offers a powerful defense of nonviolent resistance and a prophetic challenge to those who prefer comfort over justice. He reminds us that waiting is not neutral, that injustice delayed is injustice sustained, and that the call to love our neighbors requires more than kind feelings. It requires courageous action. As we listen to an excerpt of his letter, may we hear not only the voice of history, but a living invitation to examine the demands of justice in our own time and to choose faithfully solidarity over a more convenient season. I have vivid memories of being in Birmingham in 2008 on a civil rights tour, looking up at that prison where he wrote that letter, imagining King writing to people like me. Here's what hit me particularly hard. King writes, "I must make two honest confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride towards freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. Who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action. Who paternalistically believes he can set the timetable for another person's freedom, who lives by a mythical concept of time and who constantly advises the Negro to wait for a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. I'd hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exists for the purpose of establishing justice, and that then when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dam that blocks the flow of social progress. I'd hoped, he writes, that the white moderate would understand that the present tension in the South is a necessary phase of the transition from an obnoxious negative peace in which the Negro passively accepted his unjust plight to a substantive and positive peace in which all men will respect the dignity and worth of human possibility. Actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out in the open where it can be seen and dealt with, like a boil that can never be cured so long as it is covered up, but must be opened with all its ugliness to the national medicines of air and light. Injustice must be exposed with all the tension its exposure creates to the light of human conscience and the air of national opinion before it can be cured. Here ends our reading. The quote, "Let justice roll down like a mighty stream," originates from the book of Amos, Amos 5:24 in the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures of the Bible. But it was famously popularized by Dr. King in his I Have a Dream speech, where he adapted it to justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream, to call for the unwavering civil rights and equality. Here's an arrangement by the internationally renowned African-American composer Moses Hogan, a hero of mine for many years and someone I got to speak with after a concert in Minneapolis just before his untimely death in 2003 at the age of 45. In every struggle for social justice, we eventually face a deeply personal and communal question. Where do I draw my line of resistance? And alongside it, how do we honor one another when our lines do not fall in the same place? These questions first came into sharp focus for me personally in 1987, my first year in college. That year's big justice issue on campus had the acronym of CIAO, C-I-A-O, short for CIA Off Campus. In the 1980s, the CIA played a major role in Nicaragua by covertly funding, training, and arming the Contras, a rebel group opposing the Sandinista government, authorizing arms shipments and overseeing operations like mining Nicaraguan harbors to disrupt the economy and pressure the Sandinistas. The Reagan administration, through the CIA's efforts, facilitated arms sales to Iran, hoping to free the hostages, and used the proceeds to fund the Contras, circumventing congressional bans, a scandal known to history as the Iran-Contra affair. Some of you were around for that. The CIA was scheduled to do recruiting interviews on the Brown University campus. Many of us felt this was too much of an endorsement of the CIA's activities, and I became a part of the organizing committee, strategizing how to pressure the college administration to say goodbye or ciao to the CIA recruiters before they even arrived. There was significant debate about how far to go, how visible to be on campus and off, and how best to involve the larger student and faculty bodies. It was a remarkable learning experience about how a university functions, how to use power, how to identify who has power, and how to assess your own power. I learned how to build alliances, how to organize public witness events, the importance of public address systems loud enough to be heard, and how to use singing to energize large groups and the organizing team itself. I also observed the value of dumpster diving and what you can find out by reading memos discarded by university administrators. I even got to spend time with Amy Carter, daughter of President Carter, who had dropped out of school the year I came, but returned to help plan Chow. I contributed some of the protest songs I had learned in German by composing lyrics in English, and I learned that we had different lines. The most visible line was between those willing to engage in civil disobedience, risking arrest if necessary, and those who were not willing to go that far or were not in a position to do so legally. I was in the US on a student visa and did not think it wise to risk arrest. So I became one of the co-leaders of the group focused on the joy and fun-oriented, non-arrest risking activities. I was proud to engage one of the tenured history professors as a keynote speaker for one of our events, along with a student leader from UMass Amherst who was also working to prevent CIA recruitment. And he was jealous of the acronym we had come up with, CHOW. I can't claim credit for that, but I thought it was pretty funny too. CIA Off Campus. Much of my group's work was focused on the weeks leading up to the days of recruiting. We had a sit-in at University Hall, requesting a conversation with the university president and provost. We created and handed out flyers. We got the campus newspaper to write about us and our efforts. And we did some creative theater on the main green to educate people about the destabilizing impact the CIA was having on the Central American region. And I began to organize a separate, non-political event I called Fiesta Latina to highlight Latin music, food, and culture. I was taking intensive Spanish at the time, but that's a different story. Yet as the day of recruitment neared, the balance shifted to the other group, who had been strategizing about where to create a human chain to prevent the recruiters from entering the building. and how to use the rest of us to support those who might get arrested. These were the days before cell phone, if you can remember. Phone numbers and phone call pyramids had to be on pieces of paper. And then the day came. There's definite excitement in the air. I felt somewhat bad for the people who would soon graduate and were looking to these interviews as a way to land a job. And yet I figured if they were good enough to work for the CIA, they could probably find another job doing less harm in the world. At least that's how I justified our actions. We got there early, unsure what the rest of the day would bring. Someone had even used metal chains to lock the entrance. This hadn't been part of the official plan, though I know the most radical and dedicated organizer, a senior, had been thinking about it. Chris is his name. We were ready, yet by mid-morning there was still no activity. No student interviewees, no CIA recruiters. And then word got out. The interviews had been moved off campus, somewhere in downtown Providence. We celebrated, and yet there was also a sense of deflation. We had succeeded in getting the CIA off campus, ciao, and yet brown students were still being recruited with support from the university. Who won? Who succeeded? So hard to tell, as is often the case in social justice efforts. The CIA did not return to recruit brown students for the next few years, as far as I know. Was that ultimately a good thing? Would it have been better to have brown students join the CIA and bring some of the campus values to the institution? Did our actions help raise awareness in the larger culture about the activities of the CIA at the time, creating a shift in accountability? I don't know. What I do know, and what's most relevant to today's topic, is that I drew a line that felt authentic to who I am and contributed with integrity, creativity, and dedication to the evolving effort. This I've had to do over and over again. The issues have changed. The need to find that line of integrity and authentic resistance has not. I find that resistance that is rooted in guilt or comparison rarely lasts. Resistance grounded in integrity can endure. The goal is not to place ourselves at the most extreme edge of action, but at the place where our courage and compassion meet and where we can keep showing up. These lines I'm talking about are not really accidental. They're shaped by temperament, experience, by risk, by privilege, experience trauma, vocation, and yes, faith. Discerning what's right for us shifts the question from what is the most heroic thing to do to the question, what is the most faithful thing I can do and sustain? The line of resistance that is right for us is often found at the intersection of three truths. At our values, what injustice most breaks our heart? What is it that really speaks to my heart? Our capacities, what risk can we take without breaking ourselves or those who depend on us? And finally, our callings. Where do our gifts actually make change possible? As a teenager in Germany, most of the books I read were history books. And most of those history books zeroed in on the development and cruelty of Nazi fascism, the Holocaust, and World War II. And the persistent question became, at what point could all this have been prevented? And who could have played that role to prevent it? And the corollaries, what role did my grandparents and their siblings play in not preventing the horrors? Why did they not act more proactively? And then always the ultimate question, what would I have done? When would I have become active or gone inactive? What risks would I have taken and at what stage in my life? Martin Luther King Jr. in another passage from his letter from a jail in Birmingham wrote, "We should never forget that everything Adolf Hitler did in Germany was legal. And everything the Hungarian freedom fighters did in Hungary was illegal. It was illegal to aid and comfort a Jew in Hitler's Germany. Even so, I'm sure that had I lived," he writes, "had I lived in Germany at the time, I would have aided and comforted my Jewish brothers. If today I lived in a communist country where certain principles dear to the Christian faith are suppressed, I would openly advocate disobeying that country's anti-religious laws," he says. And I believe Dr. King when he says he would have stood up to the Nazis, and I hope I would have found my own line and contributed to the resistance in my own way. Yet I'm not sure, and of course I will never know. I continue to be inspired by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the German pastor, theologian, and teacher who did resist the Nazis, not because his religion gave him comfort, but because his faith demanded courage. Bonhoeffer did not treat faith as a private refuge from the world. For him, faith was a public vow, a lived commitment. He believed the heart of spirituality was not simply what we believe, but what we obey. Not what we claim, but what we choose. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we may speak differently than Bonhoeffer did. We are a pluralistic people. We do not share a single creed. But we do recognize something in him that resonates deeply with the UU soul. That conviction that conscience is sacred, that morality is real, and that human dignity is worth risking for. Bonhoeffer saw clearly what many could not or would not, that Nazism was not merely another political movement. It was a spiritual catastrophe. It demanded the worship of the nation. It demanded loyalty to the state above loyalty to truth. It asked people to trade their humanity for belonging. And it offered them the false comfort of certainty, scapegoating, and power. Bonhoeffer's resistance began, as resistance often does, with a refusal to normalize what should not be normal. In a different tradition, I would say, can I hear an amen? All right, thank you. All right, a refusal to sanctify what is evil, and a refusal to be silent. All right, yeah, amen to that. And for him, this was not politics masquerading as religion. It was discipleship. It was spiritual practice. It was, in the deepest sense, fidelity. Bonhoeffer wrote about what he called cheap grace and costly grace. Cheap grace, he said, is religion without risk, forgiveness without transformation, blessing without accountability. It is faith that asks nothing of us except that we feel reassured. But costly grace changes your life. Costly grace does not simply forgive you, it calls you. It does not simply comfort you, it claims you. Costly grace means that if you see suffering and you have the power to respond, you must respond. Not later, not once conditions are ideal, not only when it's safe, not only when the crowd agrees. Because injustice does not become less harmful because we are undecided. Does it sound familiar? Does this resonate with Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail? And if so, and it sure does for me, how am I to respond today? What costly grace will touch me, change me, so I will respond, not when it's perfectly safe at my own convenience, but when and how it is most needed within the guardrails of my lines of resistance. That is the question I have certainly asked myself ever more frequently in recent months and weeks, and especially the past few days in the aftermath of the murder of Renee Good. She was killed walking distance from where I used to live, where my kids were born, not far from where my youngest son Noah just returned for his junior year of college. I did not know Renee Good personally, yet had I remained in the Twin Cities, our paths could very well have intertwined. I or one of my friends could have been in her place. This is one of the reasons why her murder by ICE agents feels quite personal and close to home. It is why I was glad to speak at the candlelight vigil we held for her at the Concord State House. I kept my words somewhat pastoral. It seemed to fit the occasion. And yet I was glad to hear several of my clergy college colleagues speak out more forcefully, reminding the crowd that we should not be surprised, since this was an accident waiting to happen given all that ICE had done in the lead up to that moment. Thank you, Pastor John Hopkins at the Lutheran Church, for bringing moral clarity to that question. And then the leader of the Episcopal Church in New Hampshire, Bishop Hirschfeld, spoke up, sharing with us that he had urged his Episcopalian colleagues to meet the political moment and make sure they had their wills written. And his call to action, urging clergy to prepare for a new era of martyrdom amid escalating aggression from federal immigration authorities, is now drawing national attention. There it is, the shift from cheap grace to potentially costly grace. I suspect Bonhoeffer would approve. The shift from negative peace to hints of a more positive peace. I imagine Dr. King would be encouraged. So on Friday, 2 days ago, all UU ministers received an email from the UU Ministers Association, passing along an interdenominational call to faith leaders from around the country to come to Minneapolis, and here's some of what it said. Minneapolis finds itself at the center of a crisis that has long been in the making. This is a crisis of our Constitution, federal overreach, militarized enforcement, and the erosion of civil liberties. A crisis of our democracy, a crisis of our morals, a crisis of faith communities failing to live into visions of beloved community. Or across traditions, our shared commitments to justice, dignity, compassion, right relations, and collective care. This is not a crisis, they write, confined to one city. It is a crisis all over the land, born of original sin. Stolen land, slavery, genocide, and the ongoing violence required to sustain them. And just before we mark MLK Day on January 19th, tomorrow, we find ourselves standing in an echo of history, they said, offered lessons we need not repeat and legacies of love we're called to build upon. In the tendrils of inherited harm and collective memory, we hear calls from our past, calling us towards both peril and possibility. That's why we are calling on you to join us on January 22nd and 23rd. So I looked at my calendar and quickly realized it just wasn't possible for me to go. I would have to miss exploring membership, the Havenwood service, choir rehearsal, Spirit Week planning, the UU Friends of Refugees steering committee meeting, and several other very important gatherings. I was glad, though, that others would be there to answer the call. And then a seminary friend, now living in Indianapolis, texted our cohort of seminarians. Anyone going to Minneapolis? I'd really like to go, but I'm not sure I can swing it. And she reminded our group of the story by one of our seminary mentors, David Bumbar. He preached here just before my ordination, some of you might remember. He was a newly minted minister in 1965 when Martin Luther King Jr. penned a telegram to clergy across the nation. It said, says Dr. King, in the vicious maltreatment of defenseless citizens of Selma, where old women and young children were gassed and clubbed at random, we have witnessed an eruption of the disease of racism which seeks to destroy all of America. No American is without responsibility. All are involved in the sorrow that rises from Selma to contaminate every crevice of our national life. The people of Selma will struggle on for the soul of the nation, but it is fitting that all America help to bear the burden. I call, therefore, on clergy of all faiths, representative of every part of the country, to join me for a minister's march to Montgomery on Tuesday morning, March 9th. In this way, all America will testify to the fact that the struggle in Selma is for the survival of democracy everywhere in our land. And the way David Bumbar told this story is that he was asked to meet his board chair at church. And when he arrived, several board members were present, handing him an envelope that contained a plane ticket to Selma for the next day. They expected him to go, and he went, along with many other UU clergy, including Jim Reeb, who was brutally beaten and later died from his injuries, sparking national outrage and becoming a powerful catalyst for the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We will visit the neighborhoods where Jim Reeb was attacked on our civil rights trip in April. So I texted my seminary friends to say that I was thinking about it. And then I went skating with Noah, my son, his last night before returning to the Twin Cities. And later, I explained to him the situation and all the reasons I couldn't possibly go. And he just looked at me. And I could tell he was telling me, go. So he didn't hand me a plane ticket. But an hour later, I had my ticket on my phone and let the group chat know, and I let the group chat know I was going. And that put my friend over the threshold, and she is now also making arrangements as well. Same with my Lutheran colleague here in Concord, who I had invited to join, John Hopkins. First, he wrote back about, too many commitments. Now he has a ticket. Thanks in part to our congregant, Aaron Stewart, who donated miles to the cause. Thank you, Aaron. Minneapolis may not turn out to be anything like Selma. I hope not. I sure don't want to see any of us clergy be turned into martyrs. Yet I feel this is a critical moment to draw a line, and I'm ready to answer this particular call. I am aware that as a green card holder, I'm somewhat more vulnerable than a U.S. citizen, and I will keep that in mind during my time in Minneapolis. And I know there will be support from you and others should anything happen while I'm away. So I have spoken a lot about my own lives today. May those reflections and stories invite you to discern your own lines at this time of potential peril. And may we respect the lines each of us is ready to draw. For respecting the lines others draw is not moral relativism, it is moral maturity. When we dismiss another's method of the resistance, we risk reproducing the very domination we seek to dismantle. Just as movements fracture not only from external opposition, but from internal purity tests that confuse uniformity with faithfulness. Different strategies are not necessarily competing. They're often complementary. Movements need disruptors and bridge builders, prophets and organizers, caregivers and, yes, truth tellers. When we honor these differences, we build resilience. When we shame them, we weaken the whole. Respect does not mean agreement with every tactic. It means assuming good faith, recognizing different risks, and remembering that no single approach bears the full burden of justice. May it be so. Amen and Ashe.
Michael, how much is it going to cost you to be gone next weekend? Because I'm sure there are plenty of us that will support the cost.
Christy, thank you very much. So yes, it was expensive to buy the ticket. It's an $800 ticket I purchased and a $500 registration fee. So anyone who's willing to...
What about the hotel?
The hotel is covered.
Okay.
I know enough people there, so
Okay.
that is all fine. So.
Okay, we all know what the costs are. Please send a check to Michael this week.
Thank you so much, Christy. I that's appreciate that. Please be seated for another moment. Thank you for your generous support of last week's outreach offering to support open democracy. Today's community plate will support the Indigenous New Hampshire Collaborative Collective, founded in 2016 by the Kovasak Band of the Abenaki Pennacook leaders and UNH faculty. Their work is to reframe state history to include stories of Indigenous culture and heritage. The collective provides historical resources to create Indigenous lesson plans for use in classrooms, offers story maps that allow exploration of trails, villages, and archaeological sites related to New Hampshire's Indigenous heritage, and supports institutions in adopting a land acknowledgement statement that honors Indigenous people's stewardship of land and waterways in lands now known as New Hampshire. Our morning offering will now be gratefully received. Good, how it helps us transition from one way of being to, hey, I'm smiling now. This is great. So may we be transformed by our giving. May the world be transformed by our gifts. Please rise now in body or spirit for our closing hymn number 1028 in our teal hymnals, The Fire of Commitments. From the light of days remembered, there's a beacon lighting through, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. With the fire of commitment sets our minds and souls ablaze, and our hunger and our passion Go out into the world in peace. Honor one another. Listen with an open heart. Stay curious. Have courage. Be kind. Embrace the mystery. Welcome awe. And live always the way of love. I now invite you to extinguish your chalice as Rick extinguishes our chalice here in the sanctuary. Please join me in reading aloud the words on our screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of this faith we share, the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Now please join me in singing our unison benediction. If you're comfortable joining hands or elbows, go ahead and reach out. And if not, reach out with your heart to all of us worshiping with you, knowing that you are not alone. Let us go in peace, and let our service continue.